then I will move from there, if that's okay with the board. On Thursday, 12/18, Channel 2 News ran a story ran a newscast of a local county commissioner writing a letter of support for recommendation of Michael Owens. He is a he was convicted of identifying police activity to known drug dealers within Spalding County. He was investigated along with another fireman. He was convicted of such, at which time the sentencing was to be held at will. Letters of recommendation have been submitted by two people of Spalding County, one by Gwen Flowers Taylor, Commissioner, and one by Robbie, what's Robbie's last name? Milner, yeah, with Parks and Rec. Both letters were submitted on letterhead. Issue with that is and this was not identified, the letterhead was not identified in the news report. On the next morning, on the next day, Friday, we received an inquiry from the Griffin Daily News asking if we had a copy of the document. We did not, so we requested copies of the document. On Friday, we finally got a copy, or I got a copy as vice chair at 16:58, which is 2 minutes before closing during the holidays. Wasn't going to happen. So on Monday, I called, I sent the paperwork to Commissioner Gardner and to the county manager and said, we'll discuss this on Monday. I called him. I had developed a plan to talk to Jim Fortune to see if anything, if there were any issues legally, ethically, morally, etc., to move on with. Jim gave me the details on that, and basically it was decided after discussion and approval with Jennifer Gardner, our chairperson, that we would proceed with a letter of clarification to the judge. And that is to just identify that the letterhead that was used is 5 years old, that the defendant in this case is related to Gwen Flowers Taylor, Commissioner, and that the board had offered no opinion on this matter, so therefore the letterhead should not have been used. It would have been perfectly legit if the letterhead had been used by either person, Robbie or Commissioner Flowers' own personal letterhead. There's examples of that, of other support letters written by commissioners within the city of Griffin. With that, we proceeded. I went and met with Jim. After that, I put together an email on the 23rd, which basically I sent out to all the commissioners because I couldn't talk to two. I phoned each commissioner in order to make them aware of the situation because we had received another inquiry. And before this got out, we wanted to make sure the commissioners were aware of it. So I called Chipper again, I called Rita, I called Bart and Gwen, but I couldn't get hold of them for obvious reasons, so I left a message. After a while, when I could not get a response, I sent an email to everybody on the board, basically saying this is what's going on, and that I was going to ask for an open vote today in the session to be approved by the Board of Commissioners to the Judge Batten, the Superior Court judge, not Superior Court, but Federal State Court judge. And in the email, I stated the letter was not approved by the Board of Commissioners since formal Board of Commissioners stationery was used. The Spalding County Board of Commissioners have not offered an opinion in this case. The use of formal board stationery implies agreement with the content of the letter, which has not been given in this case. Due to the fact the defendant in the case and Commissioner Flowers are relatives, board stationery should not have been used, as personal letterhead should have been sufficient. The use of past and current formal Spalding County Board of Commissioners letterhead is and was not authorized in the use of this matter. Concerning in that Commissioner Gwen Flowers Taylor and defendant Michael Owens should be considered a personal and private document only, and because they're related. That presents a conflict of interest from my standpoint on Commissioner Flowers in this issue. And today, I have drafted a letter. I have asked Mr. Fortune to review it, and I will pass that down, which basically says clarification issues only. And the one thing, I go too many. May I read with you here for a minute? All right. It basically says, Honorable Judge Timothy C. Batten addressed, reference the indictment case. Judge Batten, as the current serving vice chairman of the Board of Commissioners of Spalding County, I'm writing you this letter on authority of the Spalding County Board, if granted here today. The board is aware of a letter sent to your honor by Gwen Flowers Taylor in support of the defendant in the above criminal action. Please be aware that her letter was not authorized by the Board of Commissioners at any time. The letter sent by Ms. Flowers Taylor does not reflect the opinion of the majority of the Board of Commissioners. Please note that the stationery that she used is at least 5 years old, and she is the only commissioner listed on the stationery that is still serving. The Spalding County Board of Commissioners believes a conflict of interest exists, and that Gwen Flowers Taylor did not reveal in the letter she sent to you that the defendant is a relative of hers. This letter is being sent to you because the board did not want the court to think Ms. Flowers Taylor was speaking for the Board of Commissioners of Spalding County, and that is due to the implication of letterhead being used on this matter. With that, I will move to approve sending Judge Batten the letter. I'll ask for a second, and then we'll open for discussion.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Johnson. Floor is open to discussion.
Mr. Fortune,
Yes, we were working on this, Gwen.
what were the details that you indicated to Mr. Commissioner Ray? He read in his statement that he had spoken with you and that you indicated to him that there was.
He had asked me that I think there was an ethical violation. I told him no. I did not think it was an ethical matter. He asked me, could they send the letter to the judge? And I said, yeah, but you're going to need to have board approval to do so. And he asked me to draft a letter and pretty much gave me the points that he wanted the letter to cover. And I did that, and the letter you got there is not exactly what I sent him because he has edited it some. But basically, that's what I put together.
Okay, so thank you. So you did not indicate to him that you felt like there was any ethical violation in the letter?
I told him I did not think there was.
Okay, and so there seems to be the implication in this letter statement that Commissioner Ray just wrote that this decision was made to have a letter of clarification based on your discussion with him. That is an implication that I see happening in that letter. But I just want to make it clear that you as our county attorney did not think that there was any ethical violation.
No, I told him not. No.
Secondly, just for the record, Mr. Wilson has made it clear that the only way that an individual could get stationery is the stationery is kept under lock and key in a Human Resources office and in his office. And over the course of the 10 years that I have been a commissioner, I have been given that stationery by Teresa Watson, by Ricky Clark, and by Kathy Gibson because I requested it. In the course of that time, I have written character reference letters for students at high school, students in college, churches applying for grants, and that was based on the fact that I knew these organizations and that I was familiar with the work that they had done. It is my assumption when I ask for stationery that I don't get stationery that's 10 years old. I saw my name on there. I didn't read to see who else was on there. And I have had that stationery, I think, for the last year that I was using. So that is an oversight on my part and an error, I would say. However, as a county commissioner who is a commissioner over all of the employees for the Spalding County, there are certain employees that I have had personal interaction with on a professional level. I've had personal interactions with several of the fire department in that they help to work with the first alert system at the voters registration office. On numerous occasions, I've gone out to get food and drink for individuals who were working at Walmart with the boot drive. I know personally from speaking with Chief West that Mr. Owens, our past employee, had done quite a lot of work to become a fireman and was very dedicated to his job. So I felt that, and this is only an explanation, I felt that it was appropriate for me as a commissioner to be able to share that information. Apparently, I needed to write 2 letters. We don't have a policy regarding this. The letter that I sent to Judge Batten was signed by myself as a single commissioner. To my knowledge, and I have checked over the weekend with the district attorney's office, Attorney Scott Key, and with Judge Batten's office, there has not been a request for a clarification. So I'm sure these individuals are intelligent enough to know that a letter sent by Commissioner Gwen Flowers Taylor is a letter sent by Commissioner Gwen Flowers Taylor. If there were an ethical violation, I would certainly expect in this community that somebody would certainly file one against me, because they don't have a problem doing that when they are not happy with stuff that I say or do. But in speaking with the other commissioners, I can see where someone may construe that it may have been the permission of this board, or it might have been the thought that this board consented to that letter. And so I don't have a problem with a letter of clarification being written. I just simply think that there is a problem if I'm a Spalding County Commissioner and that's the only letterhead you provide me with. I'm not going to get permission from every commissioner on this board before I write a letter of character, a letter of recommendation, a letter of reference to anyone. So if we don't have a policy, so I didn't violate a policy, I didn't get the county manager's permission to do such, because I understand from a letter that I have here that the county manager refused to allow anybody to write a character reference, which is referenced here with an email to Kenny West saying that he could not write a character letter. He didn't say anything about his personal stationery or about county stationery. So to make the assumption that I was trying to get something over on someone or trying to represent Spalding County government, I just feel like it's just really a waste of time. I would consider that if our county attorney had looked at this and said that he didn't think there was a problem, that I would go with that. So the only other reason I can see why we're having this discussion right now is because obviously there's some personal issues that individuals have with me being able to do that. I'm going to say this and I'll stop. I represent a district of 8,000 registered voters. Many of my residents reside within the city of Griffin. Many of the population, many whom voted for me, are not highly educated or lacking in education and in other facilities, and many of them have a criminal record. But I am the last person to try and ruin someone's life because they made a mistake. I don't care if it's Michael Owens, I don't care if it's Reverend Lacey, I don't care who it is. There is no need to ruin someone's life because they are guilty of a nonviolent crime. So, as far as Commissioner Gwen Flowers Taylor is concerned, nobody on this board can make me not write a letter of recommendation or a character reference to anyone that I want to write one for. Mr. Owens was a resident in my district. He incidentally is my nephew, and he is also was a Spalding County employee who had a very good record as a firefighter for the time that he was here. That's all I have to say.
Any other comments, ladies and gentlemen? I have one.
Well, people go ahead. Well, no, that's about the solution. but-
Okay, all right, with that. Since this is an issue when you sit down and look at the many debates, but all that aside, this is not a personal issue. I did not authorize or did not approve to send a letter of support on letterhead of an office of which I share with the other commissioners. I took exception to this, I did, as an elected official. And the reason I took exception to this is that we have 2 firefighters who took it upon themselves to alert drug dealers in our community from their position as a firefighter in the firehouse at the time the drug interdiction squads were moving out from the fire departments. That is placing our law enforcement in potential danger, more danger than not in my book. I support our law enforcement because they hold the fabric of our community together, just like we're responsible to as commissioners. We can't sit on one hand and say, we need to improve education, we need to kick out drugs, we need to stop this and stop this, when we're gonna write a letter of support to someone that assisted in drug dealings. I'm sorry, in my book, it's black and white. If you assist, you're just as guilty. If you don't, okay. And I have an objection, strong objection, and belief, both Christian, morally, and ethically, that this is improper. There are other avenues that could have been taken. I'm not going to address those. All I'm asking for is a letter of clarification to the judge, so he is aware of the items I've identified. Again, this is not personal. Gwen and I don't always get along, but we agree on certain issues from time to time. That's no hidden secret, and whatever. But the bottom line comes down to is there's 68,000 people in Spalding County government. That's who we represent. I mean, in Spalding County, we as the Board of Commissioners represent those in our separate districts and as a whole. We represent the people that work for us in Spalding County, and that includes the Sheriff's Department, our law enforcement. With that, Ms. Rita, you have a comment.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm gonna, the proper use of letterhead will be used. I'm sure we're gonna have some type of workshop on this, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll reserve my comments for that, but I did get a chance to talk to Gwen about that, and, really, a clarification letter, is fine, and I understand, I'm glad she supports it, or at least she understands why, the letter has to be sent out. But as far as her sending a letter in support of her nephew, I totally understand that. But we will talk about this discussion of proper letterhead later. I'll be picking up with that.
I would like to know who determined that the Spalding County Board of Commissioners believes a conflict of interest exists and that I did not reveal in the letter that I sent that the defendant is a relative of mine. Did someone on this board vote that was determined that it was a conflict of interest?
There was a discussion held, yes, ma'am. And
With whom?
between myself, I spoke with Mr. Fortune about it, I spoke with Mr. Gardner about it, and that was decided there. If you disagree with the conflict of interest, we'll remove that and we'll just state that you are a relative.
Absolutely. I would like to have that removed from the letter, and I think that we should not waste the judge's time with redundancy. I think that the statement that please be aware that her letter was not authorized by the Board of Commissioners at any time. The letter sent by Ms. Flowers Taylor does not reflect the opinion of the majority of the Board of Commissioners. That is redundant. You say it one time and let it be that. Now, if you want to note that the stationery, what is the purpose of listing that the stationery that I used was 5 years old? Is that my fault that I was given old stationery? Or, what's the purpose of making that comment?
I'm not here to argue, Gwen.
No, I'm asking a question. Explain to me.
I don't think we need to argue about this. To me, I think the letter should come, it should be with all 5 commissioners' name at the top, and a line put down there, and each one of us sign it, that we agree that, this letter presented up at the top, except this, it didn't, I don't think it was a special interest thing for Gwen. She did it because it's a nephew. She knows it. I'm not aware of it. To me, I think that would be the proper procedure for us to do, would be use a current letterhead, and commissioners that want to sign it can sign it.
All right, it just basically state that the board did not approve, or basically, the first comment, please be aware the letter was not authorized by the Board of Commissioners at any time. And just go with that comment. Mr. Fortune, would you so prepare a letter
I will.
and send it out to the board members, and then we'll come by and sign it if this is approved.
So this will be signed by all people.
All people, if approved by this vote.
And you
except
just
for
bring it down
Commissioner
here,
Gardner,
bring-
who never comes to the meeting.
Bart, you said something?
I just bring it back down and leave it with Kathy and let us come back. And
That's
let Kathy sign instead of having to go to your office. Be a lot more convenient to us.
Okay. Everybody agree?
And you just tell us when it's gonna be ready and then we'll make plans to come back.
Okay. So with that, we'll call for the question if there's no further debate. The board has a motion to approve the letter of clarification, which will state that we are writing as a Board of Commissioners. The board is aware of the letter sent to your honor by Gwen Flowers Taylor in support of the defendant in the above style action. Please be aware that her letter was not authorized the board by the Board of Commissioners at any time. And that's what I heard us say we would send, correct?
And Mr. Vice Chairman, also, I am Commissioner Gwen Flowers Taylor.
Okay, Commissioner, and well, let's correct that by Gwen Commissioner Gwen Flowers Taylor. So if you will prepare that after the vote, if so indicated, we'll move on. We'll call for the question if there's no further discussion. All in favor of said motion and second, please indicate said favor. Unanimous, motion carries. Mr. Fortune, please prepare the letter for signature. And provide it to Kathy so we can stop by. All right, item number, let me get back to this. 4, County Commissioner requests an executive session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action, or dismissal, or periodic evaluation or rating of county officer or employee as provided in the official code of Georgia 50-14-3B2. With that, we have a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion to go into this.
So moved by Commissioner,
Second.
by Commissioner Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, we will, all in favor of said motion, please indicate said favor. Gwen, I'm sorry you gotta move to another room.
Oh, that's okay, I'm
We can
good.
empty this one if it's easier.
No, this is, I can
Okay.
make it.
Commissioner Flowers has a broken leg, so we're trying to. She's got a cast on.
Hey man, hey, how you be? All right. Shannon.
How are you? I'm just updating some news.
I'll give you a holler.
Okay, thank you.
I'll give you a shout out.
Yeah.
Mr. Bob, don't leave something.
Right. And he says to your left. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Yeah.